It's about how strong is every legendary canonically. So let's get right into it.
Up next, the Swords of Justice Cobalion, Terrakion, and Verizion. Basically, they just help save a bunch of Pokemon from a forest fire. That's it. Cobalion is their leader, which possibly gives him the edge over the other two, but still a pretty unremarkable trio. Beyond them is Heatran, whose entire shtick is that he lives in volcanoes. He has no movies, stacks no paper, and is maidenless. All in all, a very unimpressive legendary. Just above Heatran are the 5 lower Regis. None of them have any unique powers, but they are all known for having exceptional endurance, and they are potentially immortal due to Regigigas making them out of nothing but their respective materials. This means that they have no internal organs and they can regenerate their strength as long as they have the materials nearby. Regieleki and Regidrago are probably the most impressive of the 5, with Regieleki being capable of supplying all the power in the Galar region, and Regidrago evidently possesses the power of all Dragon-type Pokemon. The Regis are hard to place.
I didn't even know who the electric one and the dragon one was. I don't know enough. I'm old.
Honestly, because you could say that they're more threatening because people had to lock them away to keep themselves safe, but at the same time, if humans are able to lock you up, are you really that powerful? And no, I don't mean being locked up in some 10-year-old's Master Ball. That's the great equalizer, and we don't like to talk about it. And at the top of this tier are the original legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, who truthfully are only this high due to their roles in Pokemon 2000, where a conflict between them could throw the entire world's climate into chaos. And on their own, they aren't particularly destructive. That was probably just old-school Pokemon being dramatic before an actual scale of powers was developed later on. Certainly, you could debate that they deserve to be a bit lower than the other Pokemon here, though. Our next tier is the Niche Powers tier. At the bottom of this tier are Urshifu, Latios, and Latias, who really don't have amazing powers, but Urshifu is the only legendary capable of Gigantamaxing, and Latios and Latias can at least Mega Evolve, which is more than some legendaries have. Cresselia is next, possessing the ability to dispel nightmares created by Darkrai. Yep, that's pretty niche. So niche that the Sinnoh games only give it the regular wild Pokemon battle theme. That's just insulting. Right above Cresselia are Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, the legendary beasts. Please don't call them the legendary dogs. Have you ever seen what a dog looks like? Raikou has the ability to control storm clouds at will and travel within lightning bolts. Entei's bark is said to erupt volcanoes across the world, and Suicune can purify tainted lakes and rivers by running across them. Hey, not every power has to be destructive. Next we have the Kamis, also known as the Forces of Nature, Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, and of course the newly added Enamorus. Although the 4 of them are commonly associated with fertility and the growing of crops, they can each create massive storms and cyclones to punish people who damage the land, and in the anime, Giovanni demonstrates that by controlling them in their Therian forms, a never-ending wave of natural disasters can also be created. But it appears that this isn't an ability that any of them have access to individually, so it doesn't count for much. Next is Silvally, who is developed as an Ultra Beast killer and does have the ability to switch to any type. It's worth mentioning that I did not include the Ultra Beasts in this video since they aren't officially recognized as legendary Pokemon, although they do share many of the same characteristics. But if I did include them, they'd probably be in this tier too, because although they don't possess any unique powers, they are still remarkably dangerous. Especially Guzzlord, who can devastate entire planets with its non-stop eating. Slightly above Silvally are the 4 Island Tapus, who also fight against Ultra Beasts but can periodically turn violent against humanity too. They each have a special power available to them as well. Tapu Koko can store thunderclouds in its shell, Tapu Fini can heal people using scales, Tapu Bulu can manipulate plants, and Tapu Fini controls ocean currents and can bring the souls of the dead back within its mist as seen in the anime. And to round out the top of this tier we have Mesprit, Azelf, and Uxie, the Lake Trio. They may not look like much, but according to the Pokedex, each one is capable of taking away the memories, emotions, and willpower of their foes. In Azelf's case, it can literally control the bodies of its opponents. And most terrifying of all, if these 3 Pokemon are gathered in one place, they can create a red chain that summons and controls the gods of the Pokemon world. But, like I mentioned earlier, that isn't something that they can do individually. And out of the 2 red chains that we've seen throughout human history, both of them kinda didn't work as planned. So, I'm not really sure how to rank that as a power. Nonetheless, I feel like they easily rank at the top of this tier.
And you need this done by when?
Was this approved by management?
An entire landing
To kick off the exceptional powers tier, and this is probably the hardest tier to rank due to the wide range of abilities, we have Ho-Oh and Lugia. Lugia is the easier of the two to explain, so we'll start with it. For starters, the flap of Lugia's wings can both create and quell storms, some of them lasting as long as 40 days. Even a gentle flap from its massive wings can easily destroy homes, so as a result it isolates itself deep under the sea. Ho-Oh, on the other hand, has powers that are far less destructive, but that doesn't make them any less extraordinary. Most notably, it can resurrect Pokemon from the dead, as seen with the legendary Beast after the Burn Tower tragedy. Its flames are said to burn forever, and it grants eternal happiness to anyone who sees it, proving the power can come in all sorts of forms. Our next Pokemon, Calyrex, is similar and also
I ain't gonna lie, Lugia is actually a pretty nice guy. Like, he was like, dang, I'm killing people. Let me just go somewhere else.
Possesses many unique abilities. Like the Kamis, Calyrex is also capable of creating bountiful harvests, but it can additionally use its psychic powers to control people and Pokemon, as seen through Peony and its 2 steeds. While riding on the steeds, you can bring out their true power as well, and use attacks that will blast through entire mountains. And finally, unlike other Pokemon that Dynamax using the remains of Eternatus' energy, Calyrex is able to Dynamax using its own internal energy, as evidenced by the blue aura that surrounds it. Calyrex is clearly a being of great power, but unlike most legendary Pokemon, that power is largely expressed in more gentle and benevolent ways. So keeping it in the Galar region, we have the hero duo Zacian and Zamazenta. Of course, they are most notably known for being able to defeat Eternatus during both Darkest Day events, though not without help from Hop's Dubwool. The armor they carry is so solid that not only can they shrug off attacks from Dynamax Pokemon, but they can also strike them down with ease. And they do the Luke Skywalker force projection stuff too. Not exactly powerful, but it is cool. When working together, they can undo the effects of Eternatus' Eternamax, which prevents all Pokemon attacks from working. Now, of course, since it hasn't been mentioned yet, Eternatus does indeed rank higher than these two do. Because if Zacian and Zamazenta were separated, it's highly unlikely that either one of them would have been able to defeat Eternatus alone. Up next are the previous generation's mascots Solgaleo and Lunala. As the emissaries of both the sun and the moon, they are capable of giving off or absorbing the light of large areas. The energy they emit is enough to actually override the current time of day when it comes to evolving a Rockruff into Lycanroc, which is a fact that I only just now learned about. These Pokemon fought alongside the Tapus long ago to defeat the Ultra Beast attacking Alola, and they can create Ultra Wormholes to travel between dimensions. Finally, both possess incredibly strong Z-moves at their disposal. And to round out this group of mascots, we have Zekrom and Reshiram. In the ancient past, both of these Pokemon destroyed massive kingdoms in a battle of truth and ideals. Their pillars of lightning and fire are said to be what created the 2 rivers that still exist in Unova today. Both of these Pokemon came from the original dragon, and like Zacian and Zamazenta, when weakened they turn into stones to preserve their lives. Using the powers of fire and electricity, they can easily incinerate everything around them. This has led many people to believe that both of these Pokemon could easily scorch the world. But that could just be some old-fashioned Pokedex hyperbole. As stated before, I view all 6 of these legendary Pokemon as
Reshiram believers be like, oh great Reshiram, burn my foes.
equals, but feel free to let me know what you think down below. However, there is still one Pokemon left atop this tier, that being Kyurem. Basically, take everything I just said about Zekrom and Reshiram and apply it to Kyurem as well, because it just stole their entire bodies away. But even in its base form, we know Kyurem could surpass both of them, as its Gen 8 Dex entry for Pokemon Home reads, dwelling within it is a power even greater than that of Zekrom or Reshiram, but the extreme cold keeps that power bound. Presumably, that power is what remains of the original dragon, but Kyurem keeps that power on ice, waiting for the day when it can finally reclaim the body it once had. All I'm saying is, if we don't get Legends Kyurem as a game, I will be sorely disappointed. Honestly, who knows what Kyurem's actual power limit is? But for now, I have to keep it atop this tier because at least it's capable of absorbing Zekrom or Reshiram and making their powers its own, which is no easy feat. And now we have reached the big boy tier, Earth-altering powers. These are Pokemon that have either changed the shape of the Earth in some way, or they are threats to our entire existence. Kicking this tier off is Regigigas, the Pokemon that is said to have literally towed the continents across the world using ropes. And of course managed to create the aforementioned 5 immortal beings who are powerful enough in their own rights. Its command over these Regis is so powerful it can override the effects of Pokeballs as seen in the Diamond and Pearl series when Brandon attempted to meet it. And in the 11th movie, Giratina and the Sky Warrior, Regigigas helps in holding back a massive glacier mere minutes after its awakening. When it comes to raw strength, few can outdo Regigigas. But up next on our list is the most savage of all Pokemon, and the one formerly crowned as the strongest Pokemon in the world, Mewtwo. The Pokedex explicitly states that Mewtwo's battle abilities have been raised to the ultimate level, allowing it to defeat any foe. Like other psychic types on this list, it's also been shown to be capable of mind control, and it creates a storm intended to wipe out humanity in the first movie. Mewtwo is truly the most terrifying weapon created by man, but there are other entities that surpass such a creation, including the Pokemon of life and death themselves, Xerneas and Yveltal. Both are capable of giving or absorbing life from everything around them, and their mere auras are strong enough to invigorate other fairy or dark-type Pokemon. Not to mention that their powers to give and take life were instrumental in the building of Kalos' ultimate weapon, which devastated the entire region. The after effects of which would later give birth to the Mega Evolution phenomenon. Both of these Pokemon are overflowing with power that influences everything they touch. With that being said, I'm sure some of you are wondering why they don't rank higher in this tier, and that's mostly because the reach of their powers are confined to a radius of roughly a few hundred miles. These Pokemon aren't capable of destroying or reviving the entire Earth. Not to mention that they go into a 3,000-year-long coma afterwards, so they aren't exactly efficient. But when it comes to worldwide disasters, few Pokemon come to mind faster than Groudon and Kyogre. In their primal forms, Groudon and Kyogre are capable of creating droughts or rainstorms so severe that all of humanity would be wiped out within a few days. They certainly have a farther-reaching impact than either Xerneas or Yveltal do. Sure, being able to control the life force of an entire country is impressive, but being able to manipulate the weather conditions of the entire world, or even control the intensity of the sun, which is 93 million miles away from Earth, now that is powerful. Even if I had just said these Pokemon created the land and sea, that would be enough to land them in this tier, but that's only the beginning of their fierce power. But as it's commonly known, Rayquaza is the one whose powers override both of them. Being able to dispel abnormal weather, and even able to Mega Evolve at will thanks to a special organ that stores meteorite energy within it. Using this Mega Evolution power, it once stopped Earth from being destroyed by a meteor shower, and it's been known to take on extraterrestrial threats such as Deoxys. Another legendary Pokemon known for dispelling threats and keeping the world in check is Zygarde, who I would say is roughly on the same power level as Rayquaza. Originally thought as merely the protector of Kalos, we now know that Zygarde exists everywhere around the world to protect the ecosystem. Which begs the question, what the heck has he been doing when all these other threats happen? But still, with 100% of its cells assembled, Zygarde has the power to eliminate any threat facing the world, certainly making it the strongest Pokemon within this tier. But what about threats that come from beyond this world? Well, that's where the second highest tier, Universal Threats, comes in, featuring Eternatus and Necrozma. Starting with Necrozma, this Pokemon has devastated entire dimensions in its mad search for light. Not only is it capable of opening massive amounts of Ultra Wormholes, but it can also overtake Solgaleo and Lunala's bodies similar to Kyurem. And that's just the extent of its power in its broken form. As Ultra Necrozma, it can use light that burns the sky, the most powerful move in existence without any drawbacks. Its body also burns at a temperature of 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just over the temperature of the sun, making it practically untouchable. Eternatus is pretty dang similar, all things considered. In its base form, it's not much to marvel at, but after Eternamaxing, it by far becomes the strongest Pokemon stat-wise, and creates a massive storm that rips apart space and time itself, making other Pokemon unable to use moves against it. Eternatus can expel a nearly infinite amount of energy and force other Pokemon to Dynamax against their wills as well. Both of these Pokemon come from beyond Earth and are single-handedly responsible for the births of Z-moves and Dynamax. It's hard to say which one is truly more powerful, but they certainly both deserve a tier of their own. But now we finally reach the final tier of this video, the Godlike Powers tier, which includes Pokemon that are pretty much gods themselves. Unsurprisingly, the only Pokemon here are the Creation Trio, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, who, stat-wise and transformation-wise, are actually very underwhelming compared to the last handful of Pokemon we discussed, but we'll just blame that when I'm power creeping. In terms of lore alone, if you don't have these Pokemon, you don't even have a Pokemon world to begin with. Representing time, space, and antimatter respectively, these Pokemon wield an incredible amount of control over not just Earth, not just the universe, but the multiverse and everything within it. I mean, really, they can do everything. Travel through dimensions, rip holes in reality, and they are most closely related to Arceus itself, the creator of the Pokemon world, who is unfortunately not in this video due to its status as a mythical Pokemon, but hey, maybe that's something I'll tackle in a future video. Of course, if you want to see that, make absolutely sure you're subscribed. So here is the final list to recap everything I went over. Hopefully that wasn't an information overload and you had time to digest all of it. Nonetheless, it took a ton of work to put this together, so I greatly appreciate if you left a like on this video and a comment down below. I'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Join us next.